Okay, so today's tomato review is going to be on the white Tomesol tomato. Okay, so let's take a closer look at the inside of the white Tomesol tomato. Now, I've been growing this tomato probably close to 8 years, 7 years now, and I would say 50% of the time this tomato has been an award-winning tasting white tomato for me. Actually, it's been quite a delicious tomato for many years on many occasions. There have been a couple of occasions where the tomato just simply did not do very well, and I believe that had a lot to do with the heat. We've had some summers that were like in the hundreds the entire summer. It was just scorching and dry and just really bad weather for tomatoes, and I believe that had a lot to do with the taste. Maybe the soil didn't have enough lime in that particular mix that year. It had something was going on. But this tomato, for the most part, is an absolutely delicious tomato. I love the white Tomesol tomato. I have made tomato sauce with this. It makes a white sauce, which is absolutely interesting. I've made pizza with it and put the white sauce on it and put the white cheese. You can't really even tell it's on there. It's on there, but it doesn't. You don't see any red tomato sauce. It's really, really interesting look to, say, a pizza. And it tastes great. It made a delicious tomato sauce. I loved it. Love it, love it, love it. Highly recommend the white Tomesol tomato. But I don't know what to expect this year because it's really been an awkward year. A lot of rain. Tomatoes been splitting left and right that were outdoors. They've been getting attacked heavily by insects this year, especially stink bugs and other forms of like flies, certain kinds of like fruit flies and stuff like that. Suddenly they're coming out of nowhere to get into the smallest crack on a tomato and they destroy the tomato. In fact, this one tomato I'm got now has got some bites and stuff on it. You know, and I had to pull the tomatoes quickly. So they're ripe, but they're not as ripe as I normally would let them go. But you can see that the bottom of the tomato is beautiful white color. It's cream color, but I've had these tomatoes get like a ghost white color. They don't just get yellow and creamy. They actually were white. I've had them where they were actually like a ghost white color. Very interesting tomato when it's like that, but it's not fully ripened yet. You can see where it gets like a ghost white. And if you really leave it on the vine long enough, it starts getting yellow like this, and eventually it starts to get pink blushing on the bottom. That's typical with any tomato. That just means that the starches are converting over to the sugars, and the flavor of the tomato is really developing. All right, so let's take a look at the inside of this tomato, which has a very interesting inside feature and dynamics. As you can see, now this is very typical with this tomato. You will see this pattern very common. It's generally like a beefsteak tomato. It's not really a slicer tomato, so just so you know what to expect when you open one of these up. It's not going to have perfect 4 chambers and all that. This tomato is going to have multiple chambers, and you can see wilding in the rind. It's just very hard to notice. You know, like right here you'll see it. It's got like a funny kind of wilding there. You'll see that little bit of green on there. That's telling you that's some wilding. So this is definitely an heirloom tomato, without any doubt. And you can see that the way the seeds form these chambers is really strange. It's like all over the place. Now, this is, like I said, this is very, very typical. You will see this very commonly in this tomato. It will always kind of have like variations in the way the seeds form their pockets and everything. And you could also notice most of this tomato, the seeds are attached to the rind, but I have some dry spots here, which isn't a good sign, but it's not the end of the world because most of the tomato has attached itself to the rind. A lot of times that's caused because of direct sunlight hitting the tomato, or it's caused that you picked them too early and are trying to ripen off the vine, or you didn't really give it the right amount of water. Whether you're watering too much or watering too little, that can also cause this effect as well. So that does happen. You can see it happen all on that one side of the tomato. That was probably where the sun was hitting it. It will cause that effect. But take a look at the whole tomato. Here's a whole one, as you can see. got some cracking in here. Again, that's from the rain. You know, we're getting a lot of rain. This one was grown outdoors. And you got like a beautiful like blue-green look this year on it. Kind of like dark greenish color in it, blushing. And you don't normally see that too often. That's because this tomato was picked a little early, and that's probably still the unripened core part of it, but that's okay. You could still eat that, you know, it's ripe enough. But if you leave it on here a really long time, if you let it fully ripen, it'll get this beautiful cream color to it, or it'll be like a white like it is on the bottom. The whole thing will ripen up nice and evenly. But again, I had to pull this off the vine because the fruit flies like to get right in these cracks, and then that's the end of your tomato. It will get maggots. Yes, it will. Those little fruit fly things will cause maggots, and you won't see it until you're eating it. So you don't want that to happen. Get them off the vine. If you see cracks on them, you start seeing flies flying around them, get it off the vine, bring it indoors. I put them on the table here. I let them ripen up here. And generally, if I see a couple fruit flies, I shoo them away, you know. But yeah, that's a beautiful looking, gorgeous white tomato. This is absolutely one of my favorite white tomatoes. I grow about 6 varieties of white tomatoes, White Queen being one of them. The Bisagio is another one. That's a pretty good tomato, white tomato. But this one by far has always had the best flavor. The other ones, they're off like a little bit here and there. I will be reviewing those later on this year, and we'll be getting to those reviews. But as far as this one goes, this is absolutely so far been the best flavor. Now, I don't know if it's going to read that right now. It could give me a bad taste. So if it does, you're going to know. I'm going to tell you. So let me bite it on the side that has the seeds attached to the rind. Let's see if that tastes good at first. Let's give that a bite. Here we go. Very good. Very good. Not meeting up to many last year's or previous year's standards, but it's still coming in good. It's got a nice tangy flavor. It does have a little sweetness, but the sweetness is low. And again, I've been noticing this a lot on all my tomatoes, and that's simply because I just did not add enough lime to the soil. Had I added more lime to it, this tomato would be an award winner again. But it's lacking that sweetness this year, and so it's going to get a little lower rating. But it does have the good tangy taste to it. And it does have sweetness. It's just the sweetness isn't as high, and the balance is off a little bit. But it has a nice, even tomato flavor that carries in between the sweetness and the tangy. You can taste that aftertaste of the tomato. Very nice taste. The tomato is very moist, very, very moist. So you don't have to worry about any chalky experience or anything like that. Beautiful moistness to this tomato. And I'm going to bite right here where the seeds are detached. Not really much difference. I couldn't really notice any chalkiness on that side, but again, that tanginess was probably right where it should be. There's just no sweetness following it to kind of balance it out. There is a little sweetness, but not enough really to bring you to that ultimate level of perfection. So it is lacking a little bit of sweetness. But overall on this tomato, still absolutely delicious. Still coming up high. This is going to come in as I'm going to rate this as a number 2. I really can't go any lower because I have experience with this tomato. And with the experience that I have with it, it's always came in solid. Just sometimes if your soil's not right, you're going to get an awkward year. And it would really do this tomato an injustice for me to say it's a 3 just because it's a little more tangy than I would like it, or a little less sweet than I would like it, so the balance is off. I know this tomato very well. Now that tomato there might actually taste better. So kind of varies a little from tomato to tomato. But even with those little few inconsistencies in this tomato, it's still a delicious tomato. I really can't complain about it, to tell you the truth. I'm being drawn into it right now. In fact, just for the sake of video, we're going to use a little sea salt. That's the sea salt I carry around in my garden. You know it's sea salt because it doesn't want to come out of the thing, you know. Let's see what it tastes like with a little bit of sea salt on that. See if we can bring that balance into fruition with that sea salt added. For some reason, when you add sea salt to a tomato, for some reason, even if the sweetness is out, that sea salt Just brings the flavor of the tomato to the surface. Very good. As far as like the skin on it goes, it's not a very thick skin. It's very thin, like cellophane. So what happens is, even though you could chew it and swallow it, if any of those skins get stuck behind and you're trying to chew it, they flatten out on the roof of your mouth, or they flatten out on the back of your tongue where you can't kind of get it off your tongue, and it just sticks there like a Band-Aid. So you have to like cough it out, or hack it out of your mouth somehow, or stick your finger in your mouth and scrape it out of there. It's very thin, so it sticks very easily to the side of your mouth. But in general, most of it will go down, but every now and again a piece of that thin skin will stick back in your mouth and you can't get it out of your mouth. So, I don't know. At least if it was thicker, you could spit it out. But when they're thin like that, they stick right to the roof of your mouth. But that salt definitely made the balance of this tomato perfect. When you first take a bite out of this tomato, you mash it, you push the tomato, use your tongue, and you push it up against the roof of your mouth. This tomato is so perfect and so ripe, just right, that all the tomato and the seeds and everything squishes off the skin. You can spit the skin right out. It's perfect. It's absolutely delicious. No chewing involved. You could just macerate it a little bit with your tongue against the roof of your mouth and spit the skin out. You're good to go. Now, I'm telling you, this tomato makes a great sauce. I've made a sauce with it before. You can't beat it. Now, if you are going to make a sauce and it's not as sweet as you would have liked it to, you can artificially add a little honey to your sauce, or you can artificially add a little bit of white table salt. I prefer honey because honey has a better carrying flavor. I like the aftertaste of the honey in tomato sauce. Very little bit though, you don't need much. That will balance out that sweet, hearty flavor for you in your sauce. That'll give you that effect you're looking for. So you could make it up in the sauce. It's just, you're not going to put honey on a tomato to try to eat it raw to make it taste right. That's just not going to work. But the sea salt will definitely blend that out. Wow, I will tell you one thing right now. That was absolutely delicious. Once I added that sea salt into it, I don't care about the sweetness. It's almost like drinking, if you ever take you ever drink a Bloody Mary, so you know how you do that? Well, you could take a wine glass, you can dip the rim in salt, a good sea salt like that, wet the rim and then dip it in salt, let it dry on the rim, and then you can fill it with tomato juice. And then you drink that tomato juice out of there. That's all you have to do. You don't need to put alcohol in it or nothing. Just drink the tomato juice. Now, you could squeeze this juice out of this thing. Put that in the glass, and then drink that juice out. If you want, you can macerate this, skin it, of course. You're going to have to use a spoon. This is soft enough where you could stick a spoon in this thing and just spoon it out like watermelon. So you could spoon out the insides of this thing, put it in your blender and macerate it really good. You can add a little bit of vinegar to it if you want, just a slight bit of apple cider vinegar. Macerate it really good. Take a coffee strainer afterwards, or take some kind of, maybe not coffee strainer because that will clog up right away. You can use a piece of cheesecloth or something. You just want to hold back most of the solids. Let that juice drain out into a wine glass or a container, and then put it in a wine glass. But with that salt and drinking that juice, oh man, that by itself, you don't need alcohol, guys. Believe me when I tell you. So you could do that with this too. This tomato has that attribute to it. It has that effect where you kind of want to just keep drinking the juice with salt. Just delicious. I'm going to rate this tomato as a number 2 this year, and that's because I have a lot of experience with the white Tomesol tomato, and it's always been a classic, delicious tasting tomato. I can never complain with this tomato. It's always been a full packaged tomato in every sense. It's great for cooking in all kinds of recipes. It has so much versatility. You can eat it raw, you can cook it in sauce, you can make juice out of it, everything. You can also fry this tomato as well. You may take tomato and you fry green tomatoes. You can fry this just the way it is. Pick it off when it's just starting to turn white like this. You just pick this thing off and you slice it really thin and fry it with a little American cheese on there. Again, it's a classic tomato. You can do these things with this type of tomato. This tomato is a winner, guys. If you never did the white Tomesol, I highly recommend the white Tomesol. It just ain't getting number 1 because there's some other tomatoes I'm expecting to really deliver the flavor that I'm looking for. And they're probably going to be number 1 tomatoes as far as the beefsteaks go. But anyway, that's your review for the white Tomesol tomato. And if you like this video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And I'll see you on the next one. Take care.